I'm so thrilled to finally be having this conversation with the four of you. You are extraordinary women in your fields, all in your own right. And I know from the outside it can look very glossy, like you've always been here on this perch, doing exceptionally well. And I think what's interesting for the audience tonight, and in terms of our conversation, is to sort of peel back the layers a little bit and look into the journey to getting to where you are today. And so I talked a little bit about reinvention in the opening, and Jim Collins talks about these cliff events in our life. And I thought we might start off on that note, just talking about what might have happened in your own lives that were sort of crossroads events that may have sort of initiated the journeys that you're on. So I want to start with you, Sasha. I mean, Ilia Beauty is incredible. I think almost everyone that I've told that Ilia Beauty's founder would be on the panel has said, oh my gosh, I love their products. I've got their products. I use them all the time. You've done extraordinarily well. You basically defined the clean beauty space at a time when perfection and pressure and unrealistic standards were really the norm. And your growth has been extraordinary. You were acquired by Famille C, which is the parent company of Clarins, and now you are sold around the world in Sephora stores. And so from the outside looking in, it looks glossy and wonderful. But when you reflect on building Ilia, I'm wondering if you can share a crossroads moment that really pushed you to create something different, and then maybe touch on any other crossroads moments during the creation of this company.
So many. I think initially I was at a crossroads roughly when I was 30. So I actually started in graphic design and typography, and I worked in branding. And I was in a relationship for most of my 20s, and at 28 they say there's a Saturn return, and I think I had a moment where I wanted to go traveling. I wanted to just kind of break free of everything. So I did, and when I was 30, I decided actually to return back to Vancouver. I'd lived in London, New York, I'd worked in Orange County, so I had this like plethora of experience that was amazing. And my last gig was with Urban Decay Cosmetics, and it was during the recession, and they were growing, I think like 100% during this recession. But the makeup that I was using, not just from them, but makeup, skincare, was really starting to impact my skin. And I went off the pill, I had hormonal acne, and it was a moment where I thought, okay, I gotta go look for something more natural. There was lots of stuff at the more kind of, I don't even know if Whole Foods, maybe it was just existing at that time. And then there was prestige and there was luxury, but there was really this whole white space. And for those of us that remember Barney's Co-op in New York, there was, the co-op was cool, and then there was like the main floor, and I really felt like in cosmetics there was so much in the main floor, but there was nothing in cosmetics in the co-op section. So I kind of saw that as like, I want to make something that's going to go in the co-op section. And it was really a moment of reinventing everything, because I didn't have experience in formulating. I didn't have experience really in beauty. I did have experience in branding, and that became really helpful. So that was really a reinvention of going home and moving into my parents' studio suite and saying, I'm going to make lipstick, and I'm 30, and they would leave articles on my desk of freezing my eggs. Hi, Mom. And so, yeah, it was like a reinvention. It was a risk. And I'd say, to follow up on your question, it happened a few times. Like, my dad passed away 5 years after that. Business was so small, there was a line of credit, a couple credit cards. And then when he passed away, he was like, makes me emotional. Whoops, don't pat the chest. But he was like, you know what, I think you can do this, and I need you to do it. So I could put on some armor, and I really went for it, and the timing, everything kind of fell into place, and it was a great moment of, it was go time, I think, really, so.
And there are two things that you said that I think are really interesting. One, that you spent so much time exploring in your 20s, and that led you to the place of deciding to start your business, and that all that exploring obviously fed into that desire and that impetus to start it, which is incredible, I think, for anyone with kids in their 20s who are exploring. I mean, it's a good story to hear. And then something else you said to me that's interesting is the passing of your father and how that factored into how you went forward. That I've talked to another business owner who said something very similar, that the relationship with risk completely changed through that loss and grief. And with that type of pain, you can approach that monetary risk in a different way. Would you say that was maybe?
Yeah, I think, we have like a life cliff, or some of us that kind of have something that happens in our life can really give you a whole new perspective. The last year has been the biggest cliff of my life, and I think it kind of like strips you down, and I think it gives you, again, a different lens to look through, which, I don't know, I guess it's some type of karma in this life. Like, I've been shook up a few times where it's like, we're gonna just throw everything at you and you're gonna have to look at things this way. And it's almost like, I think it's a new way. Like, I know when I get to the end of life, whenever that is, I'll look back and be like, I tried it all.
Right?
So, and I think it does give you, it teaches you how to be resilient. It teaches you how to be humble. I think when you're maybe going through big transitions or, so there's a lot that comes from it that can really be helpful in work or at home. And I think that's served me really well.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that with us. I want to, Stephanie, invite you into this conversation about Cliff Events as well. You're also a founder, similar to Sasha. And as well, from the outside looking in, your path looks remarkably linear. You're an Oxford-educated physicist. You're the founder of a leading quantum computing company. But you said that it's a bit more circuitous than that, a bit more uncertain. And right now, you're at the helm of one of North America's most promising quantum computing companies, and it's attracted significant investment and partnerships from organizations including Microsoft, RBC, TELUS, BC Investment Management Corp. Can you maybe reflect on a crossroads moment or a few crossroads moments in the journey to building Photonic? But maybe first, for those of us who are not tech savvy, in simple terms, describe quantum computing.
Oh, okay. Crossroads for all of us here. We're all going to go quantum now. I like to explain quantum by way of an analogy rather than equations. That's one thing I've learned, is it helps a little bit to think of it a little bit like we think about airplanes. Before there were airplanes, there were cars, there were horses and buggies. And the way of transporting is using different physics. And you can do things you just can't do any other way. And so that's the way I like to think about the compute space for quantum and classical. Classical being today's supercomputers, which are super powerful and awesome. Once we bring on new capabilities, new laws of physics, you can do things you can't do any other way. You could go to the moon, make satellites, all the rest of it. It's not necessarily going to get you to the grocery store, right? It's going to go alongside, just like most technologies, right? You bring in something new, it goes alongside, but it's going to give us things that we haven't been able to do any other way. It's going to be very exciting. That's my best shot without equations.
I love it. What about crossroads moments along your journey?
Yeah, I didn't think that I would found a company. I was just trying to solve the puzzle. And I think the crossroad moment I would share is kind of self-enforced, and I think that's a good thing to do. I was in quite a comfortable habit, going through academically, winning all kinds of awards and the rest of it, but taking a leap and actually making a company once we found out that we had something that was going to work. I mean, that was a big hump. That was a big jump. But there's jumps along the way too. Living overseas when nobody in my family had ever lived overseas for any length of time. Like, just little things all add up, and you have to force yourself into moments of discomfort if you're really going to stretch.
How long did you think about it before you took that leap as an entrepreneur?
So Yeah, so I was in quantum from 2001. I've wanted to be in quantum since 2001. I was a mathematician, and then I became a material scientist, and then I was an electrical engineer, and then a professor of physics. And computer science along the way, right? So like,
Okay, we need to clap.
no. But I say that in the way to say, you know, you could stay in one, but if you want to really stretch yourself, you do the next. And you could get really good at one, and that's fine. But if you really want to do something big, you push yourself even when you're comfortable, not even when you're uncomfortable, you can push yourself. So that full loop needed to happen before the solution was found, as it were, that we've found, and we're making good progress on. It's very exciting. But the leap into getting a company, I mean, honestly, Nanon, thank you. Like, it's I just want to, like, a word in here. It needed to have that community around, because I couldn't have done this by myself, right? By no means, right? So having that pulled together and taking that leap of faith, yeah.
Abi, I want to talk to you about your career as well. You have spanned industries, different geographic regions. You've been a leader in London, where you started, and then you moved on to hold leadership roles in Egypt, United Arab Emirates, Brazil, Hong Kong, Taiwan. You ultimately landed in Vancouver as Chief Operating Officer of Nicola Wealth. I want to know how reinvention played a role in your life and the transitions that you've made.
Sure. I mean, I'm very pleased you're not asking me about my academic career, because it's seriously unimpressive in comparison to my peer here. I guess as I look at reinvention, I think about stepping into my power. And I think my moments of reinvention have often been moments where I have felt less powerful or powerless, and then have stepped into that power to reinvent myself. I'm stealing words from one of my coaches, Sue Matheson, but what she says about this really resonates with me. And I think reinvention is both cliff edge, and sometimes it's actually very small ways in which you navigate that. So if I think about cliff edge, I think one of the most empowering moments I've had in the last decades was actually when I gave birth. I had my first son. I gave birth naturally. That's a whole nother story. But I came out amazed at what my body was able to achieve. I had no idea that it could do that. And it made life. And I was like, oh, hell yeah. If I can do that, I can probably do anything. And so that reinvention of power really happened for me in that moment. I really leaned in. And then my employer at the time then threatened me with redundancy while I was on maternity leave. And it was fortunate that I was feeling quite powerful, because I was like, go ahead and try. And they backed away quite quickly. But it was this moment of reinvention. I realized I needed to take control of my career. I needed to be much more directional about it. And so I did. I became much more intentional about it. And then I came to the next cliff, which for me was actually the discovery that my oldest son was autistic. My life of international travel was no longer going to be feasible. And so we made the decision to stay here in Canada. And I used it as an opportunity to, again, what was called at that point pivoting, back in COVID days, right? We all remember the pivot? Yeah. So I pivoted. I went off into biotech for a few years, loved it, had a wonderful time working for a company here in Vancouver called Acuitas Therapeutics. And then most recently, another pivot to an organization that for me really represented my values and what I could do as an individual to contribute to the well-being of Vancouver, well-being of 600 people that work there, and also, frankly, we've all talked, a number of people this evening have talked about financial stability, financial care, feeling secure in your financial situation, and that's what Nicola really does well, is help people understand their financial well-being and plan accordingly. And so I actually came in as a client first, but was really sold by that experience. And so, again, I've reinvented myself now as a member of the wealth management team there, and it's a phenomenal opportunity.
What you said about your son and how that impacted and played into your decisions going forward really resonated with me, because so many women that I've talked to, that I've interviewed, have said just that it's the people, it's their circumstances, the people that they care about in their lives that are really dictating a lot of the decisions that they're making and the choices they're making and how they're going to move forward. So I think that is something I think a lot of people can probably identify with.
And I think it's really important when you're going through these moments of reinvention that you do step into them powerfully and intentionally. It's very easy, particularly if those moments are in a moment of trauma, to feel withdrawing and stepping back. And that's okay, that's healthy. Like, you should do that. You should spend that time to recenter yourself. But you also need to step forward and take on what comes next. And remember that you have this incredible ability to contribute in the world, and to recognize that in yourself and make sure that you are in the way that feels comfortable to you.
Those are very wise words. And Dawn, I feel like you said exactly the same thing to me in the conversation that we had. That self-belief is so important. And you needed that when you moved from China to Canada and started your career over. You came over as an engineer and then went back to school. You got your MBA, your CFA, Chartered Financial Analyst designation, and started a completely new career in a new country, new culture, learning a new language. And now you're one of the very few women in, I think, North America leading a multi-billion-dollar investment portfolio. And you've had the courage to continually reimagine your future. So I'd love it if you could tell us more about reinvention and how it's shaped your life.
Thank you, Tassan. I do think that for people seeking for personal or professional growth, reinvention doesn't have to happen when you are faced with a cliff. It can be a constant shift of small reinventions, which means that you're always looking for new opportunities. You're always looking to find new ways, better ways to do things, and that's how you learn, how you grow. So I needed to adapt to the culture, learn the language when I moved from China, and then career-wise, when I moved from public equity to total portfolio management, I needed to apply my modeling skill from security selection to asset allocation. The process was not without discomfort, but I feel that that's the kind of exercise you do again and again. So you build up the muscle, you build up the confidence that I can step outside of my comfort zone. I can learn and adapt. I can develop new skills. I can take on additional responsibility, and I can go on new life stages. So I think that's unavoidable choice for anybody throughout your life.
The practice of being brave, of stepping into discomfort, and it becomes less uncomfortable the more you do it. And that reminds me of, I think of Jen Murtaugh, actually, and the work she does with bravery and really coaching women around bravery, stepping into their own bravery. And I think that's a great message and something to be reminded of, that not to shy away when we're uncomfortable, to push through it, and the more we do that, the less uncomfortable it will feel. I want to shift the conversation a bit to being a woman in leadership. And Stephanie, I want to talk to you a bit about that, because when we had a conversation before, you talked about being outside the dominant mold in deep tech as a woman. And you said that could actually be an advantage. So I'd love to hear a bit more about that and why maybe being different is your superpower.
Yeah, it has been my experience. I mean, if I was everybody knew who I was. It was all a bunch of men, and they all know who the one woman is, right? So you get your brand built for you pretty quick, right? Everybody wants to, collaborate with you. Like, it's just, okay, so that's when you're an undergrad and you're just getting started. But it does actually transfer forward. You can bring unconventional thinking to the fore, I think, a little bit more easily, because just, I don't know, in my experience, the back of my head is like, well, if they're wrong about I shouldn't be here, maybe they're wrong about this other stuff too. And so you kind of have And so I found, when I was a professor, I still am, but when I was a professor leading a group more hands-on, there'd be a lot of people that were underrepresented that would want to kind of join in. And I found just as a trend, not as a rule, but as a trend, a lot of them would have unconventional views that were great, right? They would just bring new thinking and new perspectives. And if anything, quantum needs to invent constantly and is changing so quickly. So new ideas are really, really important. And so, yeah, really nurturing that can be really helpful, and you can have that kind of attitude come to the fore.
That's, I like that mindset to recognize where your differences, where you can lean into your differences and let that be your strength. I think that's important. Sasha, I want to circle back to you. You had, you mentioned, you've had a huge transition this year. We were talking earlier, you mentioned, you were doing so much. You're raising 2 children. As a single mom, you've built this massive business. The enormity of what you've accomplished is just astounding, absolutely astounding. And I want to talk to you a bit about the invisible expectations that women often carry around success, ambition, motherhood, appearance, likability, sacrifice, power. It's so loaded in terms of what we feel are societal expectations, and then what we, I think, put on ourselves. And I think that really complicates it even more when we come up against these cliff events. And I want to talk to you about how that's factored into your journey. And is there a narrative about womanhood that you've personally had to rewrite, or maybe you're in the process of it?
Yeah, well, I think, it's we're expected to do a lot these days, and I think you have to. If you're going to go out there and you want to build something, you want to go work hard. I think it's part of the package. And there was definitely a period of time, like when you become a mother too, there's feminine energy that comes with that. And when I was going to work, I had to carry a lot of masculine energy. So I think it was kind of this duality, and I'd come home and I realized, oh, wait a second, I have my masculine brain on. That's got to come off. I've got to put that aside because I got to be mom now. And there was definitely a lot of, pulls and shifts. And I had a beautiful partner in the business with me who was 20 years older than me and ahead of me, really. And kind of, she said, I'm going to tell you right now, it's a lose-lose. You want to stay home all the time and not work. You lose because people say, why aren't you working? What are your desires outside of the home? You want to go to work and not be at your kids' pick up or drop off, you're losing there. And then, oh, she's always working. So I think it's where can you feel at peace with what you're doing and where you're at, and kind of actually say it's enough. And yes, we need to push, and there's times when we have to go after things, but I think I'm entering midlife, and with some of the transitions I've had recently, there's periods of time where you have to, like I said, put on that armor and go. But then there's also times I think where, especially this last year, where I've had to really allow a lot of grace. And what's been really amazing about what happened to me in this last year, and I'll say it, I went through a divorce, which rocked my world. It was 1,000,000 times harder than losing a parent or building the business. It was, my whole reality was kind of upside down, and still is in some ways. But there's it's almost when something so severe, it was a bit of a shocker the way it happened. It's like everything stops. And you kind of look around and the things that I was complaining about or whatever I was thinking about, it's who cares? It's not really that important. And I think it starts to make you question what is important. And then whenever we have those opportunities, whether it's a crisis at work or a crisis at home or maybe with your family, if we can stop and just sit in it for a minute and say what matters, I think it helps really create clear priorities for what you want that will bring you ultimately more happiness and peace.
I think that's so fascinating to hear you talk about the clarity that you're gaining now through, what you've gone through and this significant loss, if you will, but that you're gaining this clarity in your life through it all. And I think what really resonated with me was what you said about it's lose-lose, because you're right. It is. It's very easy to second guess those decisions and to decide is it better to be with your kids? Is it better to be at work? Should there be a bit of both? And then
Yeah.
looking after
Whatever.
parents and whoever else. It's a lot, and it is challenging to know, I think, the right choice. But I think what's interesting to hear you say is that through this process you've gone through, your priorities have become very, very clear, and what you need for yourself is very clear. So thank you for sharing that. Dawn, you shared recently when we spoke, you shared how motherhood changed the way you approached ambition and priorities. You've worked in this incredibly high-powered career. You've been a single mom for 17 years. And can you share a bit more about balancing an enormously demanding career with single motherhood?
Work-life balance is such a hot topic in financial industry. I feel that it's not the balance in the traditional sense. It's more of a prioritization. Different time periods have different priority. For me, when my daughter was born, I knew that I couldn't work the way I used to be. Before, I was staying in office 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock without thinking. After she's born, I couldn't do that anymore. So I just create this deliberate structure. I make rule for myself. I would spend 3 hours a day, every day, with her, fully dedicated without distraction. So I would get off work at 5:30, spend that 3 hours, put her to bed, and then log back on to work at 9 o'clock. Very disciplined. Investing, you always talk about disciplined, systematic investment process. So I do that in life as well. And this structure just helped me to build a career and a strong relationship with my daughter. You talk about giving up on travel when your 2 children were at home. And I did the same thing. When she was a baby, I limit my business travel to 1 night and give up international traveling. Well, she grows, I increased to 2 nights, 3 nights. And then when she became a teenager, I just prioritized teaching her how to use a bus, how to use Uber, how to make meal plan, get her involved in grocery shopping so that I can go on my business trip for a little bit longer without worrying about her. So I think it's constantly changing priority, and it's not easy. It's not without trade-off, but it's important to know that we can make intentional choices. We can build a career and life around our own value. There are sacrifices, but you don't have to completely give up on anything.
Yeah. And I love that you took that same process, that same rigor that you apply in your career to your personal life, and took such a structured approach, which obviously worked very well for you. Abby, I want to talk to you about something that came up in our earlier conversation, and that was that you spoke about women shrinking themselves in order to succeed, and that was something that you had seen. So how do you see that show up at times, and at what point did you stop trying to become what others expected of you and then fully step into your own voice?
Well, I have to say I took a very different path to Dawn. Structure is not my hot point. It's accumulated chaos in my life that means I am managing to do this. But I guess I think it's about societal expectations. We are all subject to them, but we can all choose whether or not we're going to actually submit to them. And I guess as I have moved through my career, gained more success, I have felt increasingly comfortable in saying, screw that. I am not submitting to them anymore. I'm going to do this the way I want to. And like many people here, I didn't necessarily have a lot of role models to follow in my career. So I got to build my own path, which is actually super exciting because there's no like barriers at that point because you're building your own road and you're just dealing with something, and each bump as you hit it, you just step over it and you move forward. Sometimes you need to step over with a bulldozer, but that works too. And so I think for me, I have seen many people, and I continue to see women shrink to try and fit into the spaces that they're expected to be in. We do it to ourselves. We talk about mummy guilt all the time. Oh, I wasn't there at the play. Oh, I wasn't there for pickup. Yeah, but somebody was, right? I'm sure I'm not looking at a room of people who've abandoned their children, right? And if you have, we can chat. Like, that's not the worst thing, and I understand that too. But I think this is it. Like, we build these barriers to ourselves. We hear that as a woman, you shouldn't speak up as much, and that if you do, you'll be considered, bullying, or all these stupid wee words we use for women all the time. Bossy. I mean, I actually am bossy, and I own that. But my daughter is damn well assertive. And so I think, I really encourage women. I literally had this conversation with a woman colleague very recently who was like, how do I get people to notice the work I'm putting in? And I'm like, well, have you told them? And she's like, well, but I'm like, they'll what? Like, what do you think is actually going to happen here? And she said, and I said, and have you actually ever seen that happen? That a room full of men will turn around and be like, what the hell is wrong with you? She's like, well, no. And I'm like, well, then maybe you should try it and see what happens. Right? Like, you have to try this. You have to be aware of your own power, your own bravery, your own resources, and you have to step forward and take that, because no one is going to hand it to you. It is yours. If you want it, you just have to go for it. And yes, it's not always easy. Sometimes it's awful, and sometimes you do it too much and it's overwhelming, and you have to go hide in a dark corner for a while. But that's okay too. So yeah, I think it's, don't shrink, grow.
And all of you have separately, when I was interviewing you, said the same thing, that it's so important to know your value, but not only know your value, to know that other people won't know it if you keep it completely quiet. You have to put it forward and confidently know when you can be of service in a situation, in a work situation, in the company in which you work or lead, that it's very important to be, I guess, bold about these things. Yeah.
Can I just offer a one-liner that I'm very proud of this one-liner to one of my bosses. I just come back from maternity leave. I was, completely annihilated, actually. And about a couple of months in, and I was getting a really positive performance review from my boss. He was super lovely about it. And I was like, you know what? Imagine how phenomenal I would be if I actually got any sleep.
I think that a lot. And I want to talk a little bit about the AI era that we're facing in this sort of new world that we're moving into, and the importance of human connection in the work that we do. And Stephanie, because of the work that you're involved in, I'd love to hear your take on the value of relationships and human connection moving forward, as we do very quickly, seemingly move into this world where AI is more and more prevalent.
Yeah, it's a really great point. I think what I'm seeing so I have young kids as well, but I also have, I see students through universities, and you can already see that people are starting to use AI a little bit like a social crutch. And so you can already see that there might be a bit of a differentiator on the people that make it through that still are used to speaking to other humans that aren't just sycophants, right? That aren't just like trying to please you. Because if you talk to an AI that's trying to please you, it can you can like say nasty things to it and be like, oh no, I love you. So having that awareness, super important. Also, as technology becomes more of an accelerant, like we're talking about AI, but we're about 4 or 5 years away from the quantum version of ChatGPT. That awareness moment's gonna hit, and it's gonna be another wave. So here, you heard it here first. I'm not joking. These things are going to be our lives for the next couple decades, and so getting used to having that backbone, that technology backbone wave, like as a wave over all of us. A lot of the people that are really, really good at that sometimes don't necessarily invest always as much as, or haven't been trained up, let's say, to have super high EQ. It's actually the way we teach math and physics. We don't insist on even group projects. Like, it's structural, right? So yeah, in that new world, having that ability to bring people together will then also in turn be able to bring together new opportunities and technologies and creativity, because it's that combinatorial thing that's going to give rise to new ideas, new opportunities, business ideas, all the upside that we're going to be seeing in various pieces. So it's really important, not just from a backbone skills perspective, but from an opportunity perspective.
Yeah.
Bring it together, make it real.
Connecting in person, building relationships.
Absolutely.
Probably more important going forward than ever before. I'd love to hear from you, Sasha, about the importance of relationship building and your network as an entrepreneur, and how you see that having informed the growth of your business, and how you see that even going forward as you're going through this transitional period as well.
Well, I think in the beginning, I mean, I started in 2011, so I don't know if Instagram launched, maybe just, I think it was pretty early, but I would say in person is nothing can really replace that. I think even just, I mean, our biggest partnership is with Sephora, and to be able to go and actually have that moment where you can sit down and talk and really hash things out, nothing really replaces it. Yeah. Same in the office. We relatively had gone more or less fully remote during COVID, and we had extreme growth that happened, and I think relationships are really everything in regard to, I don't know, like being able to connect in person. When you get people together, there's something that happens, like it's emotional, right, in some way, and I think if we're just only online, I even heard today, I think it was on the Oprah podcast, and I was mentioning that earlier, was it Esther Perel, is that, the therapist? She was saying that she did her first session with somebody who was in a relationship with someone in AI, like who was AI.
Right, yes.
Which is just wild. And I was sitting getting ready, I listen to podcasts when I get ready, and I was like, I rewound it, because I was like, is that really where we are? And even to your point, you know, like, yes, like you're saying it's here, it absolutely is. And, you know, how will that impact the business? I will say, you know, in our company, we need more people on top of AI right now, because it is moving so fast. So how do you keep the personal? Because even for a brand like my own, word of mouth goes so far.
Right.
I really like the product. Oh, really? Like it's reviews, it's word of mouth. So that kind of in-person moment, I think, is going to be crucial and critical always. And we have to maintain it, because if it's only going to move to robots and everything else, like, what's left for us? So I think, I'm old school.
Old school. The emphasis is on in-person relationships.
Yeah.
Okay, so I promised our audience that we would wrap up at 8:30 tonight so that we could get back out into the reception. I know you'll be around for a while longer, but I do want to ask one last question of you before we go back into the reception. And you know, I think there could be women sitting here tonight in the audience who feel quietly stuck, maybe in careers, identities, relationships, expectations, or versions of themselves that they've outgrown, maybe afraid to change directions, or sometimes believe it's too late, too risky. What would you want them to understand about reinvention, courage, and rewriting their own story? To any of you.
Everyone's looking at me. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to hear Ali.
I would say that it starts with you, but it can't be only you. You do need a support network. So I would encourage you to look out and find that support network. I am very thankful to have a number of women in this room, in fact, who are part of my village. And without them, I would not have been able to achieve the things I've achieved. And so I guess if you are stuck, find that voice that will help you and support you to be brave. It can be your therapist, that's fine. But hopefully you can find a small village that can support you.
I want to say something. I say I'm going to talk from the both sides of my mouth. First of all, it's never too late to make changes. There's a saying, the only constant in life is change. However, on the other side, having said all of that, I think that you need to be comfortable with yourself. You need to be yourself and for yourself. Some people like doing new things all the time. Some people like building on established structures. Both are fine. So ask yourself who you are, what you feel comfortable with, and just follow your heart when you make a decision.
Good advice. Stephanie?
I would just share it's never been easier. It's never been easier, right? Everybody, I don't know what I've seen, everybody has different trajectories. They're all used to change. Change is very normal. So if there's something to think about change-wise, there's never been easier access to information, support structures, pathways. It's all there. It's all there for the taking.
So if it feels hard, it's never been easier. Step into that bravery. Sasha?
Oh man, somebody needs to tell me still. But no, I don't know. I feel like I'm entering a new cycle right now, and I would say you have to believe in yourself. And Abby, I should be going to you for therapy. I mean, from what you said tonight.
I'm there for you.
I'm like, this is what I need to hear. But I think, yeah, you know, if our lights get dimmed, I think like last year mine was shattered, you know, and I think and I went inside and I was actually on top of the world one day, and the next day it's like it was completely gone. And it's taken really the last several months to it's like a rebuilding, you know. And again, when you do kind of have this moment where you are at a rock bottom or a transition, whatever it is, that you have to believe in yourself, and you do have to find support. AI is nice. It will tell you things are, you know, yes, you're right, but ultimately calling a friend, family, and you'll see who's there for you and who is not. And I think lean into those that are. It will become very obvious in hard times, and it's okay. Like we again need that connection, and through it, I think that's what kind of greatness, comes out.
And what you said about your light being dimmed, and now to see you sort of feeling perhaps more so like you're in the spotlight in your life again, sort of like Belle Burden, if you read the book.
I did.
Strangers. Yes. And she talks about moving the spotlight from the catastrophe of a situation back to yourself when you're going through something so painful. And it sounds like that is what you're doing now.
Yeah, we got to keep moving it back to ourselves.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you, the four of you, so much for being here tonight. I think we could go on and talk all night long, but I will let you enjoy the reception as well tonight. I want to say thank you to you guys for sharing your stories. I know you're going to be here in reception so that everyone can engage with you and ask more questions of you. Before I invite everyone to the reception outside, I do want to say a few more thank yous. I want to thank my advisory board for ideas and collaboration. I have a wonderful group of women that I worked with and met with in putting this event together. And I would like all of you to stand, if you don't mind, so that I can acknowledge you and thank you for your support. So they are, some are out of town, but we've got Christina Brown, amazing Christina Brown, thank you. Christy Garofalo, Leah O'Neill, Martine Cunliffe, Kim Spencer-Nairn, our own Jen Murtaugh, Heather Altus, Selena Wu, Victoria Emsley, Zoe Pollock. Did I say Joy Jennison? So thank you. All of you were so helpful in putting tonight together and bringing forward ideas. I also want to thank our sponsors again, Nicola Wealth for being our title sponsor. Thank you, Nicola Wealth. And every other sponsor who has stepped up to get behind women in leadership, thank you so much. Our sponsors tonight, of course, were Human Biography, who did the filming for us. Thank you, Human Biography, BC Lions, KPMG, RBC, Aritzia, Baker Tilly, Beatty, Hub, Aviso, Gold Royalty, Pro Show, BC Business, Max Mara, Jamie Stewart Realty, and Dr. Shannon Humphrey, Cosmetic Dermatology. And then we have our friends at Martini Film Studios and TELUS as well. So thank you to everyone who has stepped up to support tonight's event. And I also want to thank our AV partner tonight, who is Pro Show Audiovisual. They have recently launched a national audiovisual company, Avera, to serve the East Coast as well. So thank you for your partnership, Pro Show. If you're looking for someone to work with, Pro Show is phenomenal. So now, please enjoy the rest of your evening. If you haven't had a chance to visit Covenant House to enter to win some of the prizes, please feel free to stop by their desk for some of the door prizes. So enjoy the rest of your evening.